When you hear the name Henry Ford, you probably think of the Ford Motor Company, or the Model T, the car that put the world on wheels, or his moving assembly line that changed forever how cars would be built. Perhaps you might even think of the dark side of Henry Ford, like his relationship with his son Edsel, or his controversial political viewpoints, or even his racism. But what if I told you Henry Ford was one of the biggest names in movies? Hi, I'm Ken Smith, and today we're going to explore Henry Ford, the forgotten king of Hollywood, how the car tycoon built the world's largest movie empire. From 1915 to the mid-1920s, Henry Ford ran the world's largest motion picture production and distribution network. At its peak, 1 out of every 7 Americans watching movies in theaters each week were watching a Ford film. And no, these weren't just car commercials either. During those years, opening titles and subsequent subtitle cards of many of these silent movies were not only shown to Americans, but they were also translated into 11 different languages and shown in movie theaters around the globe. But thanks to modern technology, many of these rare motion pictures and other films that Henry Ford and the Ford Motor Company produced between 1914 and 1954 are now preserved at the National Archives in College Park, Maryland. What makes these films so unique is that they have a tremendous historical value. That is, mainly because they depict a broad range of subject matter and not just his automobiles. Almost every facet of the American experience, from the mid-1910s through the early 1920s, is portrayed in these silent and voiceover motion pictures. These films include businesses, city life, farming, manufacturing, news events, recreation, rural life, sports, transportation, and VIPs. In addition, Ford made sure to advance the public's knowledge by showing the evolution of all industrial processes related to the automobile. Overall, the people, places, and events contained in these films are truly an American country in motion. It all began in 1913 when Ford spotted a film crew at his Highland Park plant. Ford was intrigued and was eventually invited into being in one of those scenes. And this allowed him the opportunity for an up-close and personal view into the movie-making process. Intrigued by the endless possibilities of using this new technology to train his massive industrial workforce, Ford also thought it might be a way to communicate the news of the day to the general public, to educate them about the world in which they lived, and of course, to illustrate the wonders of Ford automobiles. In true Henry Ford style, he bought a movie camera that September, tinkered with it, started filming family and factory scenes, and consulted with visionaries like the inventor of the commercial motion picture, Thomas A. Edison. In 1914, Ford told Ambrose Jewett, head of the Ford Motor Company's advertising operation, to set up a moving picture department. Within months, the department acquired state-of-the-art 35mm cameras, and the initial 2-man staff grew to a talented workforce of over 24 employees. During that time, Ford built a state-of-the-art film processing laboratory along with an equally impressive editing laboratory at the Highland Park plant. Overall, it did not take long before the production capability rivaled that of any Hollywood studio. Thus, Henry Ford's Motion Picture Laboratories was born, and Ford became the first American industrial firm to possess a full-service motion picture facility. The first film produced, How Henry Ford Makes 1,000 Cars a Day, was released later that summer. It sadly lost to time, but it was just the beginning. For the next 2 years, the laboratory's primary production effort was the Ford Animated Weekly. Through the use of independent film distribution companies and at no charge to the theater owners, movie houses around the country could show this 10 to 15 minute informational newsreel. Weekly consisted of 3 to 5 stories that featured news events of the day, general interest items, and an occasional Ford Motor Company feature. The theater-going public responded quite favorably to stories like Helen Keller Visits with Henry Ford that you see right now. Also, Thomas A. Edison, Guest of Honor, World's Fair, San Francisco, California, Buffalo Bill's Circus, Gilligan Feeney Wins Long Swim, What Uncle Sam Had Up His Sleeve, Between Friends, Henry Ford's Pilot's Big Locomotive, and many other films. According to the July 1916 issue of the Ford Times, 4 million people in over 2,000 theaters regularly viewed the weekly. Although the reel contained no advertising, a rendering of a Ford Model T radiator was the background for the film's superimposed titles, subtitle promotion at its best. By late 1916, Ford shifted gears. The fast-paced news format gave way to deeper educational reels. Ford's educational weekly featured titles like A Visit with Luther Burbank, The Great American Nautilus, The Tale of a Shirt, or the film that you're watching right now, Heroes of the Coast Guard. Other films like Bubbles, I'm Forever Using Soap, From Mud to Mug, The Story of Pottery Making, Choo Choo, Making Chewing Gum, Home of the Simoleon, and Hurry Slowly proved to be popular. As with the Animated Weekly, the Educational Weekly series was provided at no cost to theaters owners and was commercial-free except for a distributed by the Ford Motor Company tagline on the bottom of the title cards. In the September 20, 1917 issue of Ford Motor's in-house newspaper, The Ford Man, it was reported over 1,000 miles of Ford films are shown weekly in more than 3,500 theaters in the United States alone. Likewise, throughout the dominions of Canada, the British colonies, South Africa, India, Japan, and most of the countries of Europe. It is a conservative estimate that between 4 and 5 million people are entertained by the pictures in the country every week. By mid-1918, Ford Motor Company had become the largest motion picture distributor in the world, spending $600,000 a year, the equivalent of more than $10 million today. The production tempo of the motion picture laboratories considerably increased soon after America entered World War I. In addition to their usual tasks in support of the 2 weekly series and plant operations, camera crews were now assigned to document Ford Motor Company's wartime efforts. A sample of these projects included the construction of the new River Rouge plant, the training of recruits at the U.S. Naval Training Station at Great Lakes, Illinois, which resulted in the multi-part The Making of a Man O' Warsman, the building of a fleet of Ford-designed Navy submarine chasers, the Eagle boat class at the River Rouge plant, the making and testing of the Liberty airplane motor, and the testing of the Ford-designed 3-ton Army tank. The overall results from this wartime effort added 136 World War I related titles to the laboratory's film archive. Some of this footage was also used to produce stories for the Ford Animated Weekly. In an effort to increase its share of the theater-going audience, Ford hired the Goldwyn Distribution Corporation to circulate the Ford Educational Weekly shortly after the end of World War I. This series appeared on over 5,200 movie screens every week, and soon thereafter, in an effort to offset production costs, Ford began to charge theaters $1 a week to show the one reel. Theater owners noisily objected, and some stopped showing the reel altogether. Then in May 1920, when the publication of anti-Semitic stories in the Ford-owned newspaper The Dearborn Independent, more theaters discontinued the title in protest. By August, distribution numbers had dwindled to about 1,300 theaters, and the Educational Weekly ceased production in December of 1921. Continuing Henry Ford's focus on education, the newly formed photographic department, which combined motion picture and still photography operations, was directed to develop and produce the Ford Educational Library in 1920. These films were designed for use in elementary and high schools, universities, churches, and other nonprofit educational institutions. A committee of college professors identified appropriate topics for the series that included transportation, agriculture, geology, medicine, safety, and civics. A typical title is Journey Through the Valley of Heart's Delight, which is the film that you're watching now, and it covers just about under 12 minutes of the regional geography, people, and businesses of the city of San Jose, California, as well as the surrounding county of Santa Clara. Another representative film that you're watching right now, titled The Hawaiian Islands, documents life on Honolulu, local Hawaiian and Japanese cultures, sugarcane production, and the making of poi. Altogether, roughly 50 titles were produced, and another 55 educational weekly films were later added to this massive library. These films were sold for 5 cents per foot or rented for 50 cents a day per reel. Although the Ford Educational Library was extensively promoted, it was not widely accepted and faded from sight during the waning months of 1925. As noted earlier, while cameramen were busy creating informational and educational films, other Ford photographic department employees documented the activities of the company and captured Ford products in action. Some of this footage was used to produce public and workplace safety messages, as shown here in this film, All for Safety, and another film, Safety First. Where for safety are you? Considerable footage also documented Ford airport operations, the manufacture of the Ford Tri-Motor airliner, and the Ford National Reliability Air Tours of 1925 to 1931. Wings of Progress, commercial airplane reliability tour for the Edsel B. Ford Trophy, is representative in this film you're seeing now. But Henry Ford knew his bread and butter was the automobile, and the largest percentage of footage was edited into promotional films for Ford branch sales managers and dealers throughout the country. An example is Keep the Boy on the Farm, which promoted and benefits the new Fordson tractor over doing things the old way, a film that you're seeing right now. Other good examples are Golden Opportunity, which extols the virtues of the Ford weekly purchase plan, and The Source of the New Ford Car, which introduces the new V8 engine and the latest production methods. While most films ran 20 to 30 minutes, some were longer. The Ford Age, which highlighted Ford's worldwide industrial automotive prowess, is about an hour in length. And that's a film you're viewing right now. These films were projected almost anywhere prospective buyers could gather, and that would be dealership showrooms, fraternal lodges, schools, recreational halls, county fairs, and even outdoors using the side of a building as a screen. You could almost say Ford invented the outdoor movie theater. These films proved to be so popular in both metropolitan and farming regions that by the mid-1920s, the Ford Motor Company estimated 2.5 million people a month came to see them. In some of those more rural areas, the films were the first motion pictures that farmers and their families had ever seen. A significant subject of the movie camera was Henry Ford himself. One man, George Ebling, shot most of the photographs and motion picture footage of Henry and Clara Ford, their house at Fair Lane, their son Edsel and his wife Eleanor, their grandchildren, Ford's close friends visiting VIPs, and camping trips and travels. From 1918 until his retirement in 1946, Ebling or a team of assistants under his personal direction captured the private and family life of Henry Ford. During those years, he filmed everything from the Ford's grandchildren's birthday parties to the family visit to the 1939 New York World's Fair. A fine example is Henry Ford's and His Grandsons, a film that you're watching right now, which was filmed on June 9th and stars 10-month-old Benson and an almost 3-year-old Henry Ford II. Ebling's keen eye, adaptability to an ever-changing environment, and patience with the Ford family created an unexcelled historic visual record of hundreds of titles on thousands of feet of celluloid 35mm film. After suffering its worst sales numbers on record at the height of the Great Depression in 1932, the Ford Motor Company was forced to drastically reduce costs, and as a result, it shuttered its airplane business and some other non-core endeavors, including the motion picture production facilities. Thus, Henry Ford's movie mogul days officially ended. Because of the broad scope of their subject matter and the era in which they were filmed, the motion pictures contained in the Ford Motor Company's collection provide a unique look at America's past. The moving images are truly Americana in motion, produced by the original movie mogul, Henry Ford. I hope you enjoyed today's film. Have a wonderful day, and you all be blessed.